What's up, everybody? Go Burns with my review of the crossover event on CW, Crisis on Earth X, which basically was a 2-night, 4-hour mini-series of sorts. It took place in the Arrowverse between Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, as well as Legends of Tomorrow. And overall, I would say that I thoroughly enjoyed Crisis on Earth X. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over non-spoilers, and then we're going to move into spoilers. And I think there'll be a lot more spoilers than non-spoilers, FYI. But right off the top of the bat, if you're a fan of the Arrowverse, any of these shows or all four of the shows, then I think that you two will probably enjoy Crisis on Earth X. Now, we learn a lot of things throughout this 4-episode arc, or 4 parts. Each one took place on a different show. It started with Supergirl with part 1, Arrow part 2, Flash part 3, and Legends of Tomorrow with part 4. And if you missed all 4 parts of Crisis on Earth X, the good news is it's available in the CW app. So if you have like Xbox Live or PlayStation Network or some way of watching via CW, then you could probably go Wednesday or sometime later on this week when you have an opportunity to watch all 4 parts of Crisis on Earth X. So one thing we learned is that there's obviously this multiverse. Most of you DC fans know about this. In fact, Supergirl exists on a different planet than Arrow and the Flash does. But there's a total in this multiverse of 53 planets, and there's one of the 53 is known as Earth X. In fact, it's the 53rd Earth. And Earth X is basically, I would say, Man the High Castle. I don't know if you guys have watched that awesome Amazon series. It's basically an alternative reality where the Nazis actually win World War II. And on Earth X, the Nazis not only won World War II, they conquered Earth. Well, Earth X. And so we're introduced to some new villains as well as some new heroes from Earth X. And basically, what goes down is, let's see, how do I sum it up? Okay, all right, here's how I sum it up, all right. Weddings and Nazis. Yes, Nazis. And I got to give props to CW. They were very bold with the Nazis. It wasn't like Call of Duty where they just used the Iron Cross. I mean, they had swastikas. They had SS logos all over the place. I guess similar to Wolfenstein 2. They realized how brutal the Nazis were, and they're like, you know what? Removing the swastika or the SS logos doesn't detract from how brutal and horrific, they were. And if anything, it just puts it into your face. Like, yeah, these are Nazis on an alternative world, and they're very bad. Very bad indeed. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this 4-part series, and to be honest, I didn't think I was going to because I hadn't really watched any trailers about it. I did see a few like teaser trailers, and I have been keeping up with all 4 episodes, all 4 shows, by the way. Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. But at the same time, I didn't expect it to be good. I guess maybe last year's crossover Invasion, it was okay, but it was definitely not as good as Crisis on Earth X. So if you enjoyed Invasion from last year, I feel like Crisis on Earth X was even more solid, especially when you throw in alternative Earths and you have like doppelgangers and you have Nazis. Of course, anytime you use a Nazi as a villain, for some reason, that's just like the way to go. It's a winning formula, like Nazis or zombies or, in the case of Call of Duty, Nazi zombies, right? All right, so I got a few notes, some things we want to go over, non-spoiler, real quick. So yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, I love the team-ups, from across all 4 shows, as well as the various fight scenes, the action, the one-liners. There's a lot of one-liners. There's a lot of fun. And there's actually, in part 4, something really sad happens. And then some happy stuff happens too. But yeah, we'll get into that in a moment. Okay, so like I said, versus Invasion from last year, I definitely think that Crisis on Earth X was better than Invasion. So if you enjoyed Invasion, if you enjoy any of these shows, you should be able to enjoy Crisis on Earth X. And for the most part, you could probably watch these 4 episodes, just by themselves. What I mean by that is like just watch it as kind of like a mini series of sorts. And even if you aren't like a fan of Arrow right now, or a fan of Flash or Supergirl or Legends, if there's like 1 or 2 of these shows that you only watch and the other 2 you don't really bother with, I still think you will enjoy Crisis on Earth X. And if you've also watched Crisis on Earth X, let me know what you thought below in the comment section. Spoiler free, by the way. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you thought it was good? Did you enjoy the good moments and the sad moments? Let me know below in the comment section regarding your thoughts on Crisis Earth X. But like I said, I definitely enjoyed watching it. And if you didn't get a chance to watch Crisis on Earth X for whatever rhyme or reason, you can go check it out eventually on the CW app if you have access to the CW app. I guess 3 and 4 will be up probably Wednesday. That's usually the way it goes. They put the episodes the next day, so you'll be able to binge watch all 4 episodes maybe tomorrow or maybe this weekend. Or later on, when all 4 of these shows, new seasons, get put on Netflix, then you could go and watch it then. So definitely it's worth checking out, especially if you're a DC fan and you love 1 or all 4 of these shows, despite their occasional flaws. And there are flaws to Crisis on Earth X. It wasn't perfect, but overall, like I said, it was a very enjoyable experience, and I didn't really think I was going to enjoy it as much. But I did, and I'm glad I got to watch all 4 episodes over the past 2 nights. They did 2 hours like Monday night, then they did 2 hours Tuesday night, and it was good. It was fantastic. I loved it. But, all right, so anyways, that's pretty much how I feel about it, non-spoiler. So we're going to move on over into spoilers now regarding Crisis on Earth X, and we're going to talk about some surprises. For one thing, the villains. Okay, the villains were doppelgangers of some of the characters we already know about. For example, the Fuhrer was Dark Arrow, a.k.a. the Earth X version of Oliver Queen. So yes, he's Dark Arrow, and he's also the Fuhrer. That I kind of had an issue with. Not with him being Dark Arrow. I thought he played a fantastic role as a baddie. He definitely did a good job as a villain. I'm sure that, Amel enjoyed being a bad guy for once. I'm sure they all did. Because a lot of actors and actresses, even if they play like a good character, every now and then they like to play a bad character. So I'm sure they kind of enjoyed it, even though they were evil Nazis. But at the same time, I kind of wish that the Fuhrer would have been somebody else. We'll talk about that in a minute. The other 2, actually there was 4 like super villains altogether. Next is Overgirl, a.k.a. Supergirl. So yes, that is Earth X's version of Kara. She plays Overgirl, and she's the second in command of the Earth X Third Reich. She's the general, and she's also married to the Fuhrer, Dark Arrow. So Oliver and Kara of Earth X are husband and wife. They're married, and they're first and second in command over there on Nazi Earth, a.k.a. Earth X or Earth 53. All right, the 2 other characters that were part of the, I guess you could say, the ensemble of Nazi villains is Prometheus X. Now, this was another surprise because it's not the same Prometheus that was in Season 5 of Arrow. By the way, I loved Season 5 of Arrow. I really felt like they turned the show around after, Season 3 being kind of iffy and Season 4 being a major disappointment. Season 5 of Arrow was way better. Big plus because of Prometheus, but it wasn't the same Prometheus. In fact, that's the surprise. Prometheus X turns out to be Tommy Merlin. Yes, Oliver's best friend, who was killed off many seasons ago, played by the same actor, Colin Donnell. And Colin Donnell, I think he's in an NBC show, Chicago Med now. I think that's the show. I don't watch it, but apparently it's quite popular. And he actually, I guess he flew up to Canada and he shot his scene, and then he flew back to his other job. So, that's pretty cool. And it sucks that he had a very, short amount of time in, like, part 1, and he was, like, revealed, I think, in part 2, but only for a brief moment before he suicided himself. And that's what you would expect from a Nazi that got caught, right, to end it. So yeah, I thought he was a pretty decent Prometheus X. It was a nice fan service to bring back Tommy Merlin one more time. And then the fourth member of this villain troupe is a familiar face, Reverse Flash. Yes, Reverse Flash himself, Eobard Thawne. Now what's interesting is he was reprised by Tom Cavanaugh, who plays Harry Wells, and he also originally played Reverse Flash in the first season of The Flash. So later on, the character got changed to Matt, Lesher, I think. If I'm mispronouncing his name, I apologize, but, from that point on, it became Matt that took over the role of Reverse Flash. That was what Eobard actually looks like. And he appeared in a few episodes of The Flash later on, as well as throughout the Season 2 arc of Legends of Tomorrow. By the way, the Season 2 arc with the Legion of Doom taking on the Legends was fantastic. I loved it. And I thought that was interesting that they didn't bring Matt back for this. But, they did do a pretty decent job explaining why, Eobard Thawne decided to look like Harrison Wells again. And it was probably for a budgetary reason as well. It was simply cheaper to have Tom Cavanaugh, play Reverse Flash once again than, having to shell money out for Matt to come back and be Reverse Flash. But, he did mention at the end that you don't know what face I'm going to have next time we meet. So, yeah, Reverse Flash escapes. Actually, Barry lets him go, which was kind of lame. There's several epic fight scenes, but there's an epic one at the very end, where the Nazis are attacking on, Central City. You have the Wave Rider fighting a Nazi Wave Rider. You have Supergirl versus Overgirl, who's dying, by the way, because her heart's about to give out and she's about to explode. And, so I guess in the fight, the Flash, defeats Reverse Flash. And instead of killing Reverse Flash, Barry lets Flash leave. And Reverse Flash just, speeds away. Wherever he goes, I'm sure he's off to, be a nice guy and, donate to charity and work at soup kitchens, right? No, I'm sure he's off to do something bad. So I'm sure we'll eventually see Reverse Flash again. They just can't kill him. And I think that's a good thing because Reverse Flash is the archenemy of the Flash. So I feel good about the fact that, they didn't completely wipe out Reverse Flash. And all the other characters get killed. Overgirl gets blown up, just above the Earth atmosphere. Supergirl gets her up there just in time before she blows up Central City. Dark Arrow gets murderized by Green Arrow, so I'm sure Oliver didn't mind killing himself over that one. And the Nazis were defeated, on Earth. We still don't know what happens with the Nazis on Earth X, but the actor that plays, Lance, he gets to play like the Uberfuhrer, which I guess he's third in command of the Reich. And he's a very good villain. He was a very good Nazi. I don't mean that as a compliment. I mean, he was a pretty bad Nazi. And I think he was channeling, his, Star Wars Battlefront 2 character, because he also plays a member of Inferno Squadron, who later on becomes, an important figure in the First Order. Gideon something? I watched the Let's Play on YouTube. I wasn't going to buy that game. But anyways, he's still a fantastic actor. And, I thought he played a good bad guy as well. So it was kind of interesting to see a lot of these characters that we're used to seeing as good guys be bad guys for once. And, it was a huge ensemble of characters from throughout all four shows. And there were moments in the show throughout the four-parter where you noticed certain characters weren't there. And they came up with excuses like, for example, Cisco got knocked out. He got a concussion, so that prevented him from being in at least one part. And the reason why is the same reason why they probably didn't bring Matt back to be Reverse Flash. It's a budgetary issue. This was a big four-parter, and they had this entire cast, and they were probably using the budget from an episode from The Flash, an episode from Arrow, an episode from Supergirl, an episode from Legends of Tomorrow to pull off this crossover event. And so, they couldn't exactly afford financially to have all the characters in all four episodes. Plus, they needed a little bit of time to allow, each character to shine a little bit. Even the secondary characters like the new Black Canary, as well as Wild Dog, Mr. Terrific, a few others as well. I felt like the crew that got the most neglected was probably the Legends. It wasn't until part 4 that Captain Steel and the Atom, as well as the other two girls show up. I forgot. I don't remember everybody's name. Okay, there's so many of them. Okay, but I like them. Vixen and the new girl. I like the new girl, by the way, because she likes playing video games. She's cool, in my opinion. But I think her code name is Isis, and I don't really want to say that, but I think that's what she actually goes by in comics. But anyways, they all show up finally in episode 4, part 4. And so finally, because technically part 4 is like the Legends of Tomorrow episode. And yeah, something very, very sad happens in part 4. And I guess we're going to talk about that now. Despite all the funny stuff that happened, despite all the liners, all the action, you know, a lot of it was really good, though. There was some cheese in the graphics, you know, because, like I mentioned, a lot of money was probably spent on these 4 episodes, and a lot of special effects was thrown in there. And I think, you know, the graphics department, you know, did the best they could. But, you know, a lot of it looked good. Some of it, you know. Well, you kind of have to let that slide. But despite the funny moments, despite the one-liners, despite the Elicity stuff, yeah, there was some Elicity stuff at the beginning. And it was like, oh, come on, don't bring back the Elicity drama. It's okay for Oliver and Felicity to be together, but we don't need that. But fortunately, they kind of undid that. They kind of got us out of that mess by the end of this 4-parter. And I guess Nazis kind of had that effect on people, right? So, anyways, so Elicity and Oliver, you know, they're in love, but at first, like, Felicity doesn't want to get married. Oliver does. They have a little spat about it. And I guess it's a whole bunch of wedding thing because, you know, Iris and Barry are getting married and their wedding is interrupted by the Nazis showing up from Earth X in order to capture Kara because Kara has a healthy heart and Uber Girl or Over Girl has a bad heart and they need Kara's heart in order to save Over Girl. So that's the premise of why Earth X Nazis invade Earth 1. And Alex, of course, still recovering, you know, from breaking up with Maggie because, you know, Maggie didn't want to have kids, but Alex does want to have kids. And so she runs into Sarah. And you know how Sarah is. If you're a Legends of Tomorrow fan, you know how Sarah is. I mean, she likes the ladies, she likes the guys, you know. And, you know, Alex, Sarah, a few drinks. Yeah, something happened. A one-nighter. And I don't know. I mean, I think in the end they kind of handled it all right, but I don't know. I feel like that Alex kind of took it the wrong way. Like she was all freaking out because she had never had a one-nighter before. Because like Maggie was the only other girl she's ever been with, and so Sarah's the second girl. And of course, Sarah's been with like maybe a couple dozen or a couple hundred girls by now. But one thing I like about her is she's bi. So that's one thing she states, and that's one thing we've known about the character. She's strong, she's a leader, and she's bi. And I don't think there's enough bi characters, you know, on TV, and I'm glad that there's at least one in the Arrowverse. But yeah, I mean, that was okay, but at the same time, you know, that was just additional sub-drama along with the Elicity stuff. And some of it worked, some of it didn't work. And we're going to talk about the sad thing that happened. Then we'll talk about the really happy thing that happened in the end if you're into happy things. But the really sad thing was Professor Stein, Gray, who makes up one half of Firestorm along with Jax. And, you know, they've been a team ever since the first season of Legends of Tomorrow. And, you know, they had a father-son dynamic. And, you know, Stein was really wanting to go home. He was really wanting to go home to his wife, to his daughter, to his grandson. And they were going to break up Firestorm. One of the arcs of the past few episodes of Legends was the fact that Stein and Jax were going to break up Firestorm. And they were trying to come up with a way to do so. Cisco apparently came up with a formula, along with help from Caitlin and a few others as well. But sadly, while they were trapped on Earth X, several of them got captured and sent to Earth X. A lot of the main characters like Arrow, Flash, as well as Sarah, Alex did too. A few others as well. But in the process of trying to escape, Stein was shot, mortally wounded. Jax, you know, remerged with him as Firestorm. They got back to the Wave Rider, but you know, basically. Jax was being his lifeboat. Jax was keeping Stein alive. And, you know, Stein took the potion in order to break the link between him and Jax in order to save Jax's life. Because Stein knew he was dying. He knew that if he didn't do something, that Jax was also going to die. And Jax didn't care. Jax was like, look, you know, either we both live or we both die. And, you know, you're supposed to go home to your wife and your daughter and your grandson. This is what we've been trying to do. And Stein was very human about it. He's like, look, I don't want to die, but at the same time, I don't want you to die. You're like a son to me. And it was a very emotional moment. And so ultimately, Stein basically sacrificed himself to save Jax. And, that was kind of emotional. Then, of course, Jax, having to go and tell his wife and his daughter that Stein was dead. That was emotional too. But it got really emotional at Stein's funeral. That's when, I got a little misty. That's when, a little bit of, waterworks was happening. Not a lot, but a little bit. So that's the way that Stein leaves the show. I was kind of hoping that it would be different, where they did break up Firestorm and they found a new partner for Jax to team up and be Firestorm with, and then Stein could go and be of his daughter and his wife and his grandson, because the actor was leaving the show for another show. That's the real reason why they were writing Stein off the show. Similar to why I think Maggie got wrote off Supergirl, because she is going to another show, I think. I don't know exactly what happened there, but anyways, it sucks. That was sad. An interesting way to end Stein's, chapter on Legends of Tomorrow. And then at the very end, after everyone left, after, Supergirl and Alex went back to their Earth, and then, the Legends, hopped into the Wave Rider with a Earth X version of Captain Cole. That's right. Leonard is back, or Leo now. And Leonard, or Leo, he goes by Leo. He's a little bit different than the other Leonard Snark that we were used to from The Flash and from the Legends of Tomorrow first season. He's more flamboyant, and I guess it works better for the real-life actor who is in real life gay. He has a lover who's also a superhero on Earth X, and they were part of the resistance fighting against the Nazis. And one of the other superheroes that got killed at the very beginning of part one was the Earth X version of Guardian, which was Jimmy Olsen. The Earth X version of Jimmy Olsen, not the Supergirl version of Jimmy Olsen. They both played Guardian. But anyways, so this other character called Ray, was that his name? I don't remember. But the point is, they didn't really give him an actual name. But he ends up going back to Earth X after it's all over, and Leo promises he's going to go back to Earth X with him. But first, he wants to hang out with Rory, Mick, because they were Team 2. And, it was interesting to see how, Mick is handling the new Leo, because there's going to be some differences, because this Leo's a good guy. He's not shady. He's all about doing the right thing. And so it'll be interesting to see his dynamic on the Legends series. So I'm guessing that's where Earth X Leo went. He went aboard the Wave Rider with them, flying off, and we'll probably see the mid-season finales for all these shows next week, I believe. But anyways, the finale, we got a double wedding. Diggle was brought from, Star City to Central City by Flash to marry him and Iris, because, their marriage got interrupted. So they had like a quick eloping. And at the same time, Oliver and Felicity decided they want to get married too. So basically, you had Diggle perform a double wedding. So we got Iris, Barry, they're married now. Oliver and Felicity, they're married. So good job, Diggle, with the double marriage. I think I've never seen a double marriage before. I'm sure it's been done before, but anyways, that's pretty much everything I think transpired in the four-parter. Overall, there were things I really liked about it. There were some things I didn't like, and a lot of it could have been because of budgetary reasons. One thing I wanted to bring up was the fact that on Earth X in the comics, you had Overman, which was played, which is the doppelganger of Superman, and I was kind of hoping that by the end of part 3, they were going to reveal like a major baddie, like I didn't realize, maybe I missed it, but I didn't realize that Dark Arrow, a.k.a. Earth X Oliver Queen, was the Fuhrer. I didn't realize that. I knew he was a high-ranking member of Earth X Nazi Earth, but I didn't realize he was the Fuhrer. Maybe I missed something there until, they started calling him the Fuhrer. But I would have preferred it to have been Overman, a.k.a. Superman, because they introduced Superman in Supergirl last season, and he hasn't been back yet, which is kind of odd. I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that you have two actors now playing Superman, one in the movies, one in the TV show. But, DC has kept that separated. Like I mentioned in my review of Justice League a couple days ago, unlike MCU, which tries to connect the movies and the TV shows of Marvel, that's not the case for DC. The movies are separated from the TV shows. So I think it would have been better if they would have had like Overman as like the main baddie, but that didn't happen. But it, in the end, it could have been a budgetary issue as well. They had to, make the best out of what they had. And I thought overall, with some minor exceptions, I think they did a good job. And they showed how brutal the Nazis of Earth X were because they had concentration camps. They had, a lot of stuff you would expect Nazis to have, to be brutal and mean. And, they do capture some of the secondary characters, and you think they would have simply just shot them and killed them. But at the same time, I mean, that would have entailed them, killing off, several members of the cast of at least 3 of these shows. So I don't think the team behind the Arrowverse shows on CW were going to do that, to be honest. They weren't going to do that. And I feel like that, Stein being sacrificed, I think was, I guess, a big enough price to pay in blood, because I felt like that in order for there to be like something to take away from this 4-parter, one of the heroes had to pay the ultimate price, because of how epic it was. You brought all these people together to fight Nazis from Earth X, and the fact that, all of them, got away, didn't die, that would have made it feel a lot less meaningful, I think. And the fact that, Stein, this was his final bow, I think it's very fitting. Plus the fact the character is Jewish, he died fighting Nazis, which works. And Felicity, also Jewish, fighting Nazis. And there was also an Earth X Felicity that was briefly seen. And at the very beginning, there was a young woman that came up to Barry before the wedding started, and she seemed pretty excited to be at the wedding. And she was telling him how this was an historic occasion. And that could be a wink and a nod to potentially, maybe, Iris and Barry's daughter coming back in time, to be there at this historic event. And they did mention something about Iris glowing. I mean, they haven't said she's pregnant yet, but Joe's woman, she's pregnant, so it's possible that Iris too could be pregnant. And you can imagine that if Iris and Barry have a kid, since Barry's a speedster, and since in the comics, there are other generations of speedsters. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if this isn't the last time we see this special appearance from this young woman. I mean, they don't mention her name or anything. It's just a nice little nod and wink. And it wouldn't surprise me if, later on in the season of The Flash that we see her again. And perhaps she'll even play an important role. So it'll be fascinating to see how that plays out with all 4 shows going forward and how they'll each be affected by the events of Crisis of Earth X. Some more or less than others. I feel like Arrow and Supergirl will be affected a lot less because, for one thing, Kara, Alex, they're from a different Earth. So, they'll probably be affected the least amount. The second least amount will probably be Arrow. Then, of course, The Flash, maybe a little bit more because Stein, he was introduced on The Flash. So he has a history with these characters, with Caitlin, with The Flash, with Cisco. And obviously, the most affected by the loss of Stein is going to be Legends of Tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to see how these 4 shows go forward post Crisis on X Earth, Earth X, Nazi Earth, Earth 53. You know what I'm talking about. But anyways, like I said, overall, like I said, I really enjoyed all 4 episodes, and I sincerely hope you did too. And let me know below in the comment section, spoiler free, what did you think about Crisis on Earth X?